Let's talk Tanya for the 13th of Av. Today we begin a new letter, chapter 5 of Igeres HaKodesh. This is a letter that the Alter Rebbe wrote in the year 1802. And like the previous letter, this letter also was a fundraiser intended to raise money, which the Alter Rebbe then would use to send to the Chassidim who were in Israel, the impoverished Chassidim in Israel. The Alter Rebbe begins the letter with a pasuk, a verse from Shmuel, which is talking about David HaMelech. And the verse says, Vayas David Shem, which means David made a name. And the simple meaning of the verse is that David made a name for himself through his heroic acts. The Zohar, however, has a deeper understanding of this verse, and the Zohar says that Vayas David Shem, David made a name. Whose name? David created God's name. In the words of the Zohar, Man Ovid Shmo Kadisha, who is the one who gives, who creates or who makes the holy name? That is David. How did David do so? So a few verses later, the pasuk says, Vayhi David oisa tzedakah u'mishpat, that David did justice and charity, and therefore the Zohar says that through giving charity we make God's name. In fact, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he cried and he said, Man Ovid Shmo Kadisha, who is the one who creates the holy name? It is the one who gives tzedakah to the needy every single day. Now, obviously, this is a cryptic statement. What does it mean to create God's name? What does it mean to make God's name? And what is the connection between that and giving tzedakah? How does giving tzedakah cause the making of God's name? So that's what this letter is going to answer, but it's going to take us a while to get to the answer. First, we need to have a better understanding of what God's name is. So we know that God's name, when we talk about God's essential name, we're talking about the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of four letters, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. And generally speaking, this name, the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, God's name, is the source of creation. The source of everything that exists is within the Yud Kei Vav Kei. At the same time, our sages tell us, they point to a verse that says, Ki beka Hashem tzur elamim, which means, and here the pasuk uses two names of God. First there's Ka, which is a Yud and a Hey, and then he uses the name Hashem. Tzur elamim is the rock of, or the foundation of the world. And from this, our sages derive that although all of creation is sourced in God's name, but specifically it's sourced in Ka, in the Yud and the Hey, the first two letters of God's name. And our sages tell us the Yud is the source of Olam Haba, the Yud is the source of the world to come, and the Hey is the source of Olam Haza, is the source of our world. What does that mean? So the Alter Rebbe explains as follows. This is something that we've already learned in the past, that God's name, the four letters of God's name, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey, they correspond. The Yud corresponds to Chachma, and the Hey corresponds to Bina. The Vav corresponds to the six emotions, and the last Hey corresponds to Malchus. And the Ohr Ein Sof, the infinite light of God, is revealed and is present in Chachma. This Ohr Ein Sof, the infinite light of God, which is revealed in Chachma, then is processed in the world to come. What does that mean? The world to come is the world of Gan Eden. That's where the souls go after people pass on. The soul goes up to Gan Eden. And the world of Gan Eden is the world of Bina, is the world of processing. But what do they process? What do they understand in Gan Eden? What do they grasp? They're grasping the Chachma and the Ohr Ein Sof, the infinite light of God, which is in Chachma. And that's why we say, Biyud Nivra Olam Haba, that the source of the world to come is the Yud, because the Yud is Chachma, and the Ohr Ein Sof, the infinite light of God, which is within it, that is the source of the Olam Haba of the world to come. Now, at the same time, the Alter Rebbe tells us that there is also a different type of connection between Chachma and Malchus. Malchus, we know, is speech, God's speech. And there is a connection between Chachma, which translates as the subconscious, and speech. To use Kabbalistic language, that in Kabbalah we're told that Abba Yosad Brata, which means the father is the source of the daughter. There's a special connection between fathers and daughters. And mystically what that means is, Abba, the father, is Chachma, Brata, the daughter, is Malchus, and there's a special connection between the two. Where do we see this? When we speak. So we know our mouths move, and our tongue moves, our teeth move, our palate moves, and by the different movements of the mouth, we create different types of letters. Now, No one over here, when they're speaking, thinks about the movements that their mouth is making in order to create different types of letters. In fact, if I were to ask you, try to tell me without moving your mouth, tell me what movements of your mouth do you need to create a mem, to speak a mem, and what movement of the mouth do you need in order to create a ches or a pei? Chances are you wouldn't have any idea, but yet you do it thousands of times every single day, and that is because while we think about and mentally process the ideas that we speak about, but the actual movement, the actual speech, the movement of the mouth, that comes from the subconscious, which is chachma. What does that have to do with Behei Nivra Olam Haza, the fact that our world was created with a Hey? That will be the topic, God willing, of tomorrow's Tanya.